also for later on. All right, my friends, here we go. Okay, so today's Chumash, we're starting a new parsha. We've in the previous Torah portions, we've learned about the Jewish people leaving Egypt, the 10 plagues that Hashem brought on the Egyptians. So finally, at the end of the last week's Torah portion, we concluded with Hashem sending the Jews out, and they took all the money and the gold and the silver, and they left Mitzrayim and they left Egypt. And we're going to continue with the story, what takes place in the Egypt. Actually, before I do this, I'm going to share with you something interesting. I'm going to go to my WhatsApp, or I have some pictures here that I downloaded for you guys, which I think you will find interesting. So here, if you remember previously, I showed you on the map, the picture, how the Jews traveled in the first day. I think we said it was over 100 kilometers, over 100 mil, from the north of Egypt all the way down south. So they traveled to, as you can see on the map here, they traveled to a place called Sukkot, okay? You see on the map, there's a place called Sukkot, and they traveled all the way from the north, and they left from, I think it was Ramses. They left from Ramses, was the city that they left from, and they got out. They finally left. Pharaoh said, get out, leave, and they chased them out, and they left Egypt. On the map here, you see they traveled to this area called Sukkot. From Sukkot, they then traveled to Etam. Etam is the name of the other city. The next day, I guess, after they got to Sukkot, they traveled a long traveling, then they traveled around they traveled what's called the Red Sea, but the name today is called the Gulf of the Suez, I think is the name of what that's called today. I have a picture of you. I took a few pictures for you guys. I'll show you in a minute what it's called over here. Hang on, I just got to find this thing. Okay, good. Let's go to the next picture. So they're going to travel. We'll learn inside the Chumash in a moment, but I wanted to just much easier with the map. The next day, they're going to travel from Etam back to Sukkot, or Piachirot. You see on the map here, and when they do that, it's on purpose. We're going to learn because Hashem wants the Egyptians to think that the Jews are lost or they don't know where they're going. Also, what's going to happen at the time is, remember, Pharaoh originally only requested 3 days to leave Egypt. And even though when Pharaoh actually sent them, we're going to see this in the Chumash now, Pharaoh said, just get out of here. He didn't say 3 days, but since they originally asked 3 days, Pharaoh sent inspectors with them to make sure that after 3 days they're coming back. And so the first day they traveled to Sukkot. From Sukkot they traveled the next day to Etam. The third day, instead of going back from Etam, they went back to Sukkot, to Piachirot, that city like on the bottom of Sukkot over there. We'll see that in the Chumash. And over there, they right away, the messengers run to Pharaoh and say the Jews are not coming back as you expected. And then Pharaoh travels from Pitom. You see from the top, that's the other traveling. That is the Egyptians attack the Jews by the Red Sea, and that's where the miracle is going to take place. So that's going to be in today's Chumash. This part of history is going to take place in today's Chumash. Here's a picture just from Google Maps. That's what it looks like today. Right? I think it's called the Gulf of the Suez. The Gulf of the Suez. That's the area which it takes place. So just to zoom in, I believe, if I understand correctly, they're going to travel first to one side of the water and then go to the other side of the water. This is a place you can go to today, obviously, and see this area today. So that is a little bit interesting. The maps I wanted to just share with you guys. I think that's what I had. I wanted to share that stuff with you guys so you can actually see the maps of what we're going to learn about. All right, let's do that inside now. Okay. And it was when Pharaoh sent the nation. So Pharaoh has to send the Jews. I remember Terry, I don't know, Ira, if you're still here, but Terry asked, why did God send the Jews in such a roundabout, funny way? Right? If you look at Israel, Egypt is right next to Israel, actually. It would have made sense for Hashem to send the Jews, just go a little bit east, go a little bit north, and you get from Egypt to Israel. Today, they're right next to each other, right bordering each other, basically, Israel and Egypt. Why couldn't they just do that? Instead, they go down all the way south and this whole crazy route. And the Torah asks that question itself. So we'll see inside the Torah today. So it says when Pharaoh sent the nation, V'leinacham Elokim, God didn't lead them, right? Because God was a GPS at that time telling them where to go. God did not lead them derech eretz plishtim by following the land of the plishtim, the Philistines. The Philistines lived on the southern border, southern western border of Israel. So when the Jews, if they would go straight from Egypt to Israel, who would they hit first? They would hit the Philistines, the plishtim. God did not want them to go straight from right across the border of Egypt straight to Israel, because they're going to, who they're going to encounter? They're going to encounter the Philistines. Kikarev who? Because the Philistines are very, very close, and they're going to hit into the Philistines, and there's going to be a war. If they Jews, God takes them in that direct route, there's going to be a war. Ki Amar Elikim, and God said, if I do this and they hit the Philistines, Pen Yenachim Ma'am B'Ra'isa Milchama, a war is going to encounter. The Philistines are going to attack the Jews. And what are the Jews going to do? They might not want to fight, or God knows they're not going to want to fight the war. They don't have it in them yet. Maybe they're still slaves, or they haven't have it in them yet. They don't have the courage yet. And they're going to say, let's turn around. Let's go back. Forget it. This is not for us. We just started our journey. We're being attacked. As soon as the second we start our journey, we're being attacked. We're going to turn around and go back. Shavu Mitzrayim, and they will return to Egypt. So God says, I need to take them in this whole different way. Maybe go all the way south. No one's going to attack them right away. Then we'll go through the ocean, and we'll have the great miracle. And then the Jewish people will hopefully have the courage at the time to continue on the journey that I'm taking them. But if I right away, as soon as we leave on the journey, we're attacked by the Plishtim, by the Philistines, the Jews will right away say, I want to go back home, and we're not leaving Egypt. So God knew maybe the psychology of the Jews at the time. They were slaves. It wasn't a good route to take them directly. And that's, the Torah tells us, it's actually in the Torah, this reason why God is taking them in such an indirect way. When Israel's so close, just go a little bit north and a little bit east, right? And you'll be in Israel, but they couldn't do that because of this reason. Now, Rashi is going to say this actually happens. The Jews later on, they're attacked by the Amalekites and other problems. And what do the Jews say right away? Let's just go back. Let's just forget about it. Like it's like when you get a stress, you open a business or something, and right away, forget it. I'm just not doing this. It's not for me. So Hashem was explaining, I guess, the psychology of the Jewish people at the time, that you had to first go through this whole journey and then deal with the obstacles. If you deal with the obstacles right away, the people would give up. And that's what Rashi brings them. So again, the route is so easy to return. If I take such a direct route, we're so close to the original location, which we're leaving from Egypt, they're just going to run back. And therefore, I don't want to lead them in this way. Rashi says there's a lot of other interpretations to understand this, but that is the basic interpretation of this verse, why God took them in such a roundabout way. Very interesting. Verse 18. So Hashem led the people in this whole weird, right, mixed up way to get to Israel. They're going south instead of going to Israel, going in a very different way, a funny route, a different kind of route. They're going in the opposite direction almost. Taking them through the desert, right? God's taking them into the Sinai desert. V'chamushim, and here's a funny word, and we're going to learn Rashi on this funny word. V'chamushim alu b'nei Yisrael. And the Jews left, the Hebrew term here. Okay, God's taking them in the desert to the Yam Suf, to the Sea of Reeds, or to the Gulf of the Suez. And he's going to take them to the desert, to the Gulf of the Suez, to the reeds, because it's like these reeds, I guess, grow at the edge of the ocean there. That area is going to take them towards there. But they go up, and the Hebrew term here is chamushim. So there's two interpretations of the word chamushim. We'll go with the order. The second one's even more interesting, but we're going to start with the first one. Chamushim could mean, I think this is also a modern Hebrew word, is that it means like prepared, ready, armed. Like, you can say someone's armed to the teeth. So God took the Jewish people out fully loaded, like they had everything with them that they needed. They needed an arrow, a sword, whatever. These guys were like the soldiers, like you say on the army soldiers, that they were, armed to the teeth, that they had all the weaponry that they needed with them. They didn't just go out with their stuff. Now, Rashi says, had they gone straight to Israel, if you weren't scared of the Philistines, approaching the Philistines and the Jews returning, it would have been very easy. You take a couple bucks with you, right? You stop by a restaurant on the way, you buy whatever food you don't need to take everything with you, right? But if you're going to the desert on a who knows how long trip, you better get everything ready with you that you might need. You might encounter dangerous animals. You might encounter a terrorist or army on the way. So they came, Chamushim means they were fully loaded. Had they gone straight to Israel, they would have taken a couple bucks with them. We know they had a lot of money with them. You would have purchased, you don't have to take your whole house with you. You just purchase on the way, whatever's necessary. But since they didn't go that direct route, they went in this long way, they had to come forward with the weaponry and everything else. Rashi will also explain later on the Amalekites, right? The great-grandchildren of Esav will attack the Jewish people, and there'll be a bitter war, a battle. Where do the Jews have weaponry or stuff with them? So that's why the word interpretation is the Jews left, armed to the teeth, fully ready with everything they needed, all the provisions and everything they needed, all the armory, because they're going to need it. You're going to ask yourself a question: how did the Jews have it in the desert? So he's telling you the Jews left fully prepared. They had everything that they needed with them, even for battle. That is one interpretation. The other interpretation is a sad, very sad interpretation that Rashi brings. There's another way to read chamushim. Chamushim doesn't mean, according to second interpretation, that they were armed. Chamushim means from the word chamisha. Chamisha in Hebrew means 5. Number 5, right? Achad, shtayim, shalosh, arba, chamesh. Chamesh means 5. Chamisha, over here, he's translating it as a 5th. Chamushim olu b'nei Yisrael. And he translates it very sad that only a 5th of the Jewish people left Egypt. That when they left and everything was said and done, out of all the Jews, there is a huge amount, 600,000 of 20 and up. But you should know that it's only 1/5 of the entire Jewish people, which means, could you imagine that there must have been, right? If you do the math, there must have been millions of people. What happened to them that there's only 1/5 left? And he says, because remember we spoke about in the plague of darkness, why did Hashem make the 9th plague the plague of darkness? He said because many Jews died because they didn't want to leave Egypt. Hashem made it during the plague of darkness because he didn't want the Jewish people to the Egyptians to see the Jewish people dying. And some Jews died, but according to this interpretation, not some Jews died, only 20%, only a 5th of the Jewish people were left. And that's what behind the word of Chamushim, a 5th of the Jewish people came out of the land of Egypt. They left Meretz Mitzrayim. That is the Rashi on this verse. Verse 19. Vayikach Moshe, and what do they have with them? Believe it or not, they had some dead bodies with them that they carried on the way. Right? They also had the funeral home, the cars, the hearses. They had Moses took with him the bones, the remainder of Joseph, who was the previous viceroy of Egypt. Why? Yosef said, I'm swearing, making you swear that you should make your children swear because you are not going to get out of here alive. He turned to his brothers who were still alive. Levi was the last one to die. He turned to his brothers before he passed away and told his brothers, you tell your children, make your children swear that I ain't going to go out of here. You ain't going to go out of here, but our kids or our grandchildren will go out of here. So we're going to make you swear that you make your children and descendants swear that when you go, take me out of here. Rashi addresses the question, well, when Yaakov died, Yosef took Yaakov right away out of Egypt and brought him to Israel. Why did they wait to leave? They were in Egypt for 100 years, quite a long time after Yosef passed away until they left Egypt. Why did they wait all the way till they left and then bring Yosef with them and then take Yosef, schlep him with them through the whole desert? Why didn't they just take the guy when he died and bring him? People today, from America and around the world, they bury people in Israel. So Rashi says, and that's exactly what Yosef did with his father Yaakov when Yaakov passed away. And Rashi says that because Yosef was a very powerful person, the second most powerful person in Egypt, Yosef had the power to do whatever he wanted, right? His father wanted to be buried in Egypt, no problem. He wouldn't let them mummify, and keep his father there. He sent him right away to Israel. But when Yosef died, who was going to take Yosef out? He knew they didn't have the authority and the power to do it. So Yosef said, listen, I know you guys are slaves and then you're not going to have a lot of power, but at least when you leave and you are powerful, don't forget about me. Take my body with you. I don't want to be left in Egypt. Take me with you. So the Torah is telling us now, together with what the Jews carried, all the stuff and their luggage and all the gold and silver and clothing that they had, they also had the casket of Yosef. And Rashi adds, not just did they have Yosef, but they actually had other caskets there too. Who else came along? All his brothers, all of Yosef's brothers, the 12 tribes, were all, they uprooted their, I forget what you call that when you dig up the grave, they took all the caskets together with them, and they took them out of Egypt. Because Yosef originally made his brothers and the descendants swear that he said, he said, Yosef says, I know God will eventually take you out of here. You can't leave now. But when you do go, when you do leave, please take my bones up, take my body up with you. Don't leave me here in Egypt. You guys are going to go free. Don't leave me buried here in Egypt. Verse 20. So they traveled from Sukkot, as I showed you on the map. They had previously gone from Pisom to or Ramses to Sukkot, and now they're going from Sukkot. And they travel on the next day, right around the Gulf of the Suez. They traveled from Sukkot and they went to the city of Asam, kind of on the other side of the Suez. They were at the edge of the desert. I guess that probably means the whole Sinai desert is under them. They were right at the tip of the Sinai desert next to the Gulf of the Suez. So day one, Sukkot. Day two, they go to around that water bed to Asam. Verse 21, and had this traveling take place. So he says it was an amazing, miraculous way. This was a really cool GPS. God went in front of them, Yoimam, a day in the imagery of Amud Anon. God led them. How? Through, they didn't see God himself. You can't see God, but through a cloud. They had a huge cloud. It led them, was a GPS, literally. It showed them the way. They followed the cloud where it went during the day. The Laila, by night, you can't see the cloud. So I guess if they had to travel at night, God was the headlights too for them. But Amud Eish, he made a fire, lahoyer lahem, to give them light. So literally lit up the desert for them, the traveling. The light could go by day and by night. So the cloud could only be by day, but the fire was only by night to not just guide them, follow me, but also to light up the way for them. And it was so, God was so detailed in leading the way for them. Verse 22, one would not leave unless the other one was there. So the cloud would wait for the fire to come. As soon as the fire came, then the cloud would leave. And vice versa. One of the guides waited for the other guide, the Hashem's guides that he put for them, which is the cloud and the fire, in order to, at day you only needed the cloud, at night you needed the light, this huge fire that Hashem led them and also lit up the way for them. So again, we went to Sukkos, then from Sukkos, they went to, what was the name of the next place? Asam. And now this is 2 days. So day one, day two, right, on the third day, so God speaks to Moshe. He says, here's the plan. Speak to the Jewish people. It's travel back. You're going all the way, exactly back where you came from, right? Under the location which they were the day before, Sukkos. It was an area on the map I showed you in the beginning of the class, was called a Pihachiros. So go back to under Sukkos, where we were yesterday, a little bit further south, go to Piachiros. Bein Migdal, between, and where's Piachiros? Between the city of Migdal, which is the north, it was also on the map, if you saw the Bein Hayam, and the ocean and the water, the Fnei Baal Tzafon. And another thing about this location, it's right in front of the idol called Baal Tzafon. We'll see everything is very specific where he wants them to go. Nichachai Tachnu Al Hayam, you shall encamp opposite it, by the sea, so you're right near the idol, you're right near the ocean, I'm right where I want you to be. I'm very specific plans. I want you to go backwards where you came from, and this is all very specific and deliberate. So Retzi or Rashi says some of the ideas behind it. So first of all, let's talk about the idol Baal Tzafon. God made it that, remember we learned in the Chumash, Hashem destroyed all the idols. The wooden ones rotted and the metal ones melted and everything was destroyed. Hashem made it that there'll be one idol, very interesting, that won't be destroyed. The one idol that's not able to be destroyed, that not able, but didn't destroy it. And that idol is this idol, Baal Tzafon, right where they are now, right in front of the location where they are. Why did God do that deliberately? He wanted to trick the Egyptians. He wants them to chase the Jewish people. Now, if he leaves that idol up here, that all the Egyptians, what do they think? They think that this God is more powerful than Hashem because they have one idol left. So God is making the Jews go right next to the idol that's the remnants that's still remaining there, and he's going to put the people there. Now, why is this place? So that's a little bit about the idol. So the idol's still up; they're camping right next to the idol. And the Egyptians think, "Oh my gosh, we can now attack the Jews and finally avenge the money they stole from us." As Rashi is going to say, they took all our money, and originally they told us 3 days, even though we gave them permission to go for longer. But too bad. We're going back to original 3-day thing. They didn't come back. We're going to go attack them now. And that's a little bit about the idol where they were now, and it makes sense. It's all deliberate plan by Hashem to get the Egyptians to think that they can attack the Jews because their idol's still intact over there. Another thing, the place is called Pihachirot. That is really Pisom, right? I think there might be 2 Pisoms. I don't remember in the class, but anyway, the city Rashi says Pisom. It changed its name to Pihachirot because the word chirot is cherus. Cherus means freedom. This is kind of the first location, I guess, where the Jews went right after they ran out of Egypt, and they came to free people over there. And there was two big rocks, he says. That's why it's called Pia Mouth, because it's like a mouth that's opening with two big rocks in front of them. And the Jews are in that area, okay? And also another plan to this whole thing, how it's going to trick the Egyptians, is they're going backwards. So the Egyptians think the Jews, they traveled, remember, over 100 kilometers south. Then they went around to the desert. The fact that they're going back now means they're lost and they're confused. And this is really going to get Pharaoh to want to chase them, because now he has this opportunity. They thought they had where to go. It's 3 days. They don't know where they're going. It's all deliberately planned in order to get the Pharaoh to think they have a chance. Verse 3, so Pharaoh says about the Jewish people, and it's all planned. So Pharaoh will say about the Jewish people, they're trapped in the land. They're lost. The desert has closed them. They went to the desert and they can't go through it and they got to go back, right? And they're lost and they're confused. And let's go fight them. They're trapped. They don't know where they're going. They're in the middle of the desert. There are all these people, and they're lost and they're trapped. And let's go and attack them. Verse 4. And Pharaoh wasn't sure. Should I go? Should I not go? So God strengthened the heart of Pharaoh, as Rashi explains. He said yes. He pushed them in order they should go. And Pharaoh will pursue, will run after them. And God says, I want all this to happen because I'll be brought great glory by Pharaoh through this whole story. So if the 10 plagues would have ended there, it would have been an amazing miracle. But God's saying, I'm going to up the ante here. We're going to make the whole experience of all the Egyptians drowning in the sea and the Jewish people going free. God's going to take it to a whole nother step, which we're going to celebrate the miracle of the Jewish people by having this extra miracle take place. So I'll be honored through punishing the Egyptians for the crimes that they did. So Hashem wasn't done yet with his experience in the miracles. He was going to do the greatest miracle, perhaps of all, greatest miracle of all that happened. I'll cause this great miracle to happen, and I'm going to be honored through this, because when Hashem punishes wicked people, people gain respect for God and they have more appreciation for Hashem. So Hashem is planning all this down to, and he hardens Pharaoh's heart. He says, go get them. And I'll be honored between Pharaoh and all his chariots. And Egypt will know. Because I am God. And so they did, and they went and they attacked. So when Rashi says Pharaoh was punished first, because Pharaoh was the original criminal who started this whole thing. He was the one who said, let's drown the baby boys. And so on. Now, Rashi says that the Jewish people listened to Moses. So Moses, I guess, told them the plan. He's like, guys, this is the plan. We want to get the Egyptians to come and attack us. If you would have been the Jews, you might have been scared. Rashi says, no. The Jewish people says, listen, we got nobody else. We got the son of Amram. We got Moses, the son of Amram, who's going to lead us. This is what Moses wants us to do, and draw the Egyptians in to attack us. That's the plan. And we're going to go together with it. Pretty crazy stuff. So they're ready to listen to Moshe for this plan. But you got the Melech Mitzrayim, and it was told to the king of Egypt. So Rashi says the king of Egypt had officers, had, I guess, inspectors or secret service or someone he had with the Jewish people. And the Jews are 3 days out, and they come back right away. Even though when Pharaoh told them to leave after the death of the first one, he said, just get out of here. Nothing to do with 3 days. But originally, the Jews asked for 3 days. So now they come back to Pharaoh. They said, Pharaoh, the people ran away. They're not keeping the 3-day original commitment that they said. And Pharaoh's heart changed. He had a change of heart. Va'avodav and the servants. They changed their heart to the Jews. Just 3 days ago, they loved the Jews. They gave them all their money, all their silver, whatever they wanted. All of a sudden, total change of heart. We're going to attack the Jewish people. And they said, what do we do? We send the Jews away from serving us. We lost all our money. We were so nice to them. We were so excited to let them go. We gave them all our money, and they gave us terrible plagues. And now we don't even have them to serve us, as Rashi says. Right? Originally, we said, get out of here. We had enough of you. And they had a complete change of heart. And they're like, oh, they're lost in the desert. They took all our money. That's it. We're going to go. We're going to attack them now. And they're drawing in the Egyptians to attack the Jewish people, which is obviously something very dangerous. But the Jewish people are believing in Hashem. So Pharaoh harnesses his chariot himself. He gets in. He takes his hand, gets his hands dirty. He gets his chariot. And his nation he took with words. He convinced them to go. He said to them, they took all our money. and we sent them away. Let's go and attack them. And I'm not going to do like the other kings, Pharaoh says. I'm going to go in the front. Most kings, they stand in the back of the war. They don't go in the front. Pharaoh says, no. I'm in the front. And number two, most time the kings will take all the spoils of war for themselves and leave a little bit for the soldiers. Pharaoh says, nothing doing here. We're splitting it equal. Just come with me and we're fine. We're going to get rid of the Jewish people. And they're going to end up committing suicide by doing that. But anyway, that's where they're holding it now. They took 600 of the best chariots. This was like the main power of the war here, of the army. They had 600 great, amazing chariots. I guess like today you would say the F-16s or whatever, the best chariots, 600 of the best chariots, and more. Besides that, like the strongest part of the army, all the other chariots of Egypt, in addition to these 600 powerful chariots, Vishlishim al-Kuloi, with officers over them, overseeing this thing. So Rashi brings the question, which we addressed already in a few days ago in our class. How did Paro have chariots? We thought, right? We had the plague of where in the fifth plague, all the animals died. So I thought all the animals died. So Rashi says we already addressed, Rashi gives the same answer we addressed earlier, that if you were a God-fearing Egyptian and you put your animals in your farm, your barn, your stable, you didn't keep them in the field, like also when the hail came, you trusted in God, God did not kill those animals. And not all the animals died. If it was a God-fearing Egyptian, God actually saved the animals from that fifth plague. And therefore, there were leftover chariots and so on for Pharaoh and the army to attack the Jewish people at this point in time. And there were officers that oversaw the chariots and so on, and they're going to attack the Jews. Verse 8, God hardened Pharaoh's heart. Melech Mitzrayim, the king of Egypt, he ran after the Jewish people, and the Jewish people were marching triumphantly with strength, with power, with might. So Pharaoh was deciding, but God hardened his heart, and the Jewish people were traveling with might where they were, and that is how the Egyptians are drawn in on purpose by the Jewish people in order to let them attack them so that Hashem can make the miracle that's going to happen at the Sea of Reeds. Let's move on to Tanya, unless someone has a pressing question.